Hello, welcome to Workplace Wake Up. I'm Jen Shaw. Every week, I spend about 15 minutes covering key legal developments, introducing you to interesting guests, and providing some entertainment to start your workday. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me. It's my birthday. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Okay, this is crazy. I am 59. How did that happen? I feel like I was in high school yesterday. And my daughter, Ella, is now in high school. I'm almost at the big 60. I can't believe it. Okay. Anyway, I love birthdays. I'm so excited. So this is great. Now, in honor of my birthday, we're going to talk about a topic that none of you want to talk about, which is your equal employment opportunity compliance training. Lots of states in the country and the Federal Equal Employment Opportunity Commission want us to be doing training on a regular basis so we can understand what our employees need to know about the law and about our policy and make sure that their behavior is appropriate so we can defend ourselves in litigation when there's something going on about an equal employment opportunity issue, harassment, discrimination, or retaliation. But here's the problem. This is what we tend to do. We buy a program off the shelf, or we hire someone to do a training and they record it and we play it over and over and over again. And we don't look at whether we need to update it. And we don't add new scenarios or new questions or new ideas. And we don't really reflect what's going on in the world by saying, okay, do I need to make some changes here? I got to tell you, you need to change your training every year. I don't care if you do it internally or externally, but you got to do it every year. And this year particularly, right? We've got so much going on here with these executive orders by President Trump and what we're supposed to be doing in terms of talking about protected activities. The bottom line is the law has not changed. So just because President Trump doesn't believe in DEI doesn't mean that you still are not going to require employees to attend EEO compliance training. But you may want to change your messaging, right? You're going to want to be careful about how you're describing things like DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. You're going to want to make sure that you're not talking about quotas or special programs for people who fit into special categories. Those things have never been lawful. They've never been recommended. We've never blessed them. They're not a good idea. But that doesn't mean you don't have them in play. So this is the year, 2025, when you need to look at your EEO training and you need to say, okay, am I cutting edge? Am I as good as I should be? Am I reaching the audience in the right way? Am I covering the right topics? Am I doing what I should be doing in terms of making sure that I am meeting my legal obligations, number one, but also that I'm just doing the right thing? Like, I've really been hit recently with this idea of people just need to do the right thing. Like, we shouldn't have to be told not to drive drunk. We shouldn't have to be told not to cheat on our wives. We shouldn't have to be told not to beat our children, right? We should just do the right thing. And in the workplace, it is no different. It is very hard to legislate morality. It is very hard to legislate conduct that you're expecting people to comply with or that their conduct should be of a certain type. What you have to do is set expectations and hold people to those expectations. By the way, regardless of where they are in the org chart. One of the reasons we're always so busy is people don't do this correctly, right? You have employees who behave badly. You have employees who make unfair decisions. You have employees who do things they shouldn't be doing. And then the employer gets held accountable and they call us and say, we need help. Okay, I get it. But you know what? We could prevent a lot of this if we did real training. If we did training that shows we actually care about it, that we are passionate about it, that it matters so much. The CEO is sitting in the training. The executive director doesn't miss it. The board of directors is present and accounted for. If we don't show a commitment it just feels like lip service. And you know how effective that is? It isn't. So you have a culture you need to change. You have issues that need to be addressed. Let's address them. Don't do some off-the-shelf training. Do a training that reflects your actual concerns. You know, you work in an environment where there are a lot of folks who are, let's say, coming and going, right? They're not sitting at their desk all the time. They're often out entertaining clients, going to events. You better talk about what happens at those events. You better talk about what their conduct is supposed to be. You better let them know what to do if the firm's most important client misbehaves at one of those events. It's not going to do you any good to do some generic training when you need to talk about what's really going on with your employees in your organization and how you can protect them. That's really what matters here, okay? So I want you to take a look at your training. By the way, I realize the last couple of podcasts I've given you a lot of work to do, and I get that. And I don't mean to pile on. I know how busy you are. I know how much is going on. I'm having the same trouble keeping up as all of you are. You know, we have such a great team in this firm, and we all work together to try to make sure that we're staying on top of legal developments and we have a practical approach to what we're telling employers to do. But the truth is, there's a lot. And I get up really early these days to read the paper, to listen to the news, to look at new court decisions, to try to keep track of what's going on. It's tough. I get it. But your EEO training is all about you. What I mean by that is your EEO training reflects on the organization. So it should look good. It should be modern. It should be interesting. It should be appropriate for your organization. If all of your people work remote, don't have hypotheticals about people in the office. They're not working in the office. You're going to have a hard enough time keeping their attention as it is. If you try to train them on something that doesn't even bear any relation to their reality, they're going to check out. They're not going to learn anything. So I want you, first of all, to look at your training, your EEO training, with a fresh perspective. Pretend you're a new employee. And in fact, the next new employee who takes the training, I want you to not only ask for an evaluation, we always do that, but pull them aside and say, you know what I want to do? I want to talk to you about your actual reaction to this training. What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? Let's take 15 minutes and let's really talk about how you think it went. Because when you do that, you get true feedback. Many times, if you're just giving an evaluation form, okay, well, fine. They're getting an evaluation form, but what good is that? They're going to give you some numbers. They're not going to give you real feedback. That's not going to help you. So I'm going to want you to get some feedback from new employees in the organization, from people who've been through the training a couple of times. Really get some feedback. And then you look at it very critically, right? Look at it from the perspective of, could any of this be misinterpreted? Am I sending the wrong message? Am I making light of a situation I shouldn't be making light of? You know, you want to think about how your training really needs to reflect your commitment to complying with equal employment opportunity laws, right? That's the thing that has to happen. And that's the thing that takes work, right? It's very easy to just buy a training off the shelf. But when you're thinking about, okay, how am I actually going to do this training? What information am I actually going to include in this training? That's when I want you to think about, okay, how do I make sure that it follows the appropriate standards, right? For example, back in April 2024, the Federal Equal Employment Opportunity Commission released a new document. It's called Enforcement Guidance on Harassment in the Workplace. It is 180 pages long. It is updated from 1999. It's the first major guidance that the EEOC has issued on harassment in the workplace in the last 25 years. And they give you 77 examples in the guidance. They talk about pregnancy harassment and discrimination. They talk about sexual orientation and gender identity harassment. They address stereotypes. They look at cross-bases issues, right? So looking at things like, how do we deal with interclass or associational harassment or discrimination based on multiple characteristics? The guidance talks about corrective action strategies, talks about how you can get your message across to your employees in the most effective way. Those are the kinds of documents, that's the type of research you need to be doing to make sure your training is effective. And I got to be honest, from my perspective, live training is always better. I got a ticket a few months ago. I had to do traffic school. I picked comedy traffic school. It was anything but comedy traffic school. It was torture. All I could do was skip ahead. I tried to just skip ahead in the video as fast as I could and answer the questions. And then I realized, oh no, they're going to make you sit here for the entire time, right? You can't skip ahead. It was horrible. And you know what the truth is? I don't remember any of it because I was doing so many other tasks while I was letting that training proceed and answering the questions. Because I didn't want to sit there for 8 hours and do the training. It was boring. Now, might it have been better in person? I think so. Next time, I hope there isn't a next time, but if I get another ticket and I have to go, I'm going to go to the in-person session. At least I'll learn something. I feel like I literally used 8 hours of my life I will never get back, and I did not remember one thing from that training. So I would rather you take the time and energy and resources to get this training in shape. Make sure that you are addressing cutting edge issues. Should you talk about the affirmative action executive order? You bet you should. Should you talk about the DEI developments? Yes, you should. Your employees are reading about them on Facebook and Instagram and everywhere else in the New York Times or whatever paper they're reading. They know about it. So you got to talk about it. Your training is stale when it doesn't reflect any of the recent developments, when it doesn't actually feel like something that is responsive to what's going on in the world. And that kind of training can be worse than doing no training at all because that training is boring and nobody wants to spend the time to participate in it. And they'll do everything they can to get out of it. So take some time. Be critical, be discerning, look at what you're doing. Can you do it better? Can you do it differently? And there are so many vendors out there who will tailor the training. And they don't have to be employment lawyers. I mean, we do a ton of training, but you can go to an IT type of vendor. You can go to an HR consultant. There are a lot of different things you can do. But what you need to do is be proactive. You need to get out there and find the best possible source for your training and develop it in a way that is positive and you're selling it to your employees. You don't say, all right, everybody, I just want to let you know next week is about an EEO training we have to do. You know, it's torture, but we got to do it. No, you got to believe it's important. And if you don't, you got to find someone to convince you it's important. Because if that's your attitude, that we just have to check a box, there's going to be no positive development. Nobody's going to learn. Nobody's going to get what the expectations are going forward. Your training is important. It should look like your organization. It should be cutting edge. It should be modern. It should be engaging. It should be interactive. Get out there and make it happen. You can do it. I know it's hard. But what do I always tell you? You can do hard things, you guys. I don't care if you have 1 employee or 1,000 employees. Your training has to be good, especially when you're talking about discrimination, harassment, and retaliation prevention. Okay, so get out there and get it done. Thanks, everybody, for joining me today. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. If you have feedback for us, I'd love to hear it. If you want to be a guest, let me know. We're working on some really fun guests coming up. If you have ideas for topics, shoot me an email, jshaw@shawlawgroup.com or info@shawlawgroup.com. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thanks again for taking this time with me. Workplace Wake Up, including our guests and hosts, do not provide legal advice in this podcast. Do not act upon any of the information discussed in this podcast without first consulting a licensed attorney in your jurisdiction. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to spread the word, please share it with others, post about it on social media, and/or rate and review it. You can also follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, and email us at info@shawlawgroup.com.